You made it. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hope you guys are having a beautiful day. I know I deleted the tier list a couple days ago because it was 5 a.m. Sol, saying just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and also missed Conqueror as well. Even Sober Sol didn't believe some of the placements that he put on the tier list. And so today's video is going to be talking about the Year 5 Season 2 best heroes to play when you're in solo queue matchmaking and just trying to farm things out, you know what I'm saying? With bad teammates, good teammates, all the above. And the order of when the hero goes in the tier list doesn't necessarily matter. I'll be going over their strengths, their weaknesses, and some of their feats as well when it comes into play, their ability to stall, their ability to anti-gank or gank. And after you watch the video, be sure to let me know your opinions down below. I'd really appreciate that. Let's just get started. Kyoshin, this son of a gun, the new hero. He's a very strong hero. He's got a lot of tools up his sleeves. He's got a really strong full block, actually quite annoying in my opinion. I think I'm going to put him in A tier. He doesn't have as much range as Zhenhu when it comes to his unblockable mix-up. However, he does have a pretty good 50-50 that does revolve around the bash chain and also his undodgeable mix-up. He also can pretty much have a good ganking utility with his unblockable, with his full block. So overall, you can't really attack this hero when you're in a team fight or a 2v1 situation or 1v2. It's very dangerous and he can pretty much land a bunch of damage on you. His feats are also pretty good too. They're more selfish in my opinion due to his just passive feats, pretty much all passive feats. His first and second tier, doing a little bleed, doing a little bit of healing, which is very good for survivability. However, it's not going to be that good for team fights. It will help him out in the long run because he can be a very defensive hero. And let's not forget about his crushing counters. I will say though, his crushing counters are very lackluster. They're very bad. They have no range whatsoever. You will be able to crush and counter somebody externally. However, you're probably not going to hit them, especially if you do a whiff light attack, just to be safe. With this full block, if you do land it, you do have the option of pressing heavy attack to crush and counter or have a superior block if someone decides to interrupt you with a light attack or a heavy attack. Keep in mind, this is not going to help you with an unblockable, and most of the heroes now do have unblockables now, so you're going to have to be very careful. It's still a very good and viable technique when you want to interrupt opponent or just surprise them with a crushing counter. However, his full block is just mainly used for a ganking utility when someone tries to guard break and you can land your top heavy unblockable. Otherwise, his fourth feat, really good. Pretty much is a complement to every single other fourth feat or heavy attack to the face, every top heavy. It's really strong. You know, you're gonna have to be watching out for his animations. If you see that, you better dodge roll or get ready to dodge really quickly. But if you're stuck on a wall or something, then you're pretty much screwed and say goodbye to half your health. Honestly, I will say this is one of the more balanced heroes. I'd say he's weaker than the top tiers, but he still feels really fun to play and honestly a little bit annoying to play against in Dominion, especially when there's more than one. You pretty much can't really throw any lighter heavy attacks, and if you don't have a bash and you're playing a hero like Peacekeeper, well, why are you playing Peacekeeper? She's so bad. I mean, she's not bad, but like she's not as good as the rest of the heroes. She doesn't have any external pressure whatsoever. So Kyoshin, A tier. He's a good hero and he's very fun to play. You can do very well with him. You can do a lot of ganking, a lot of stalling with him, but he's definitely a very strong and solid pick. The only other big issue with Kyoshin is that when you're trying to target swap and externally hit somebody, his undodgeable side heavies, they really don't hit that far, even though if your sword is touching them, it's not going to hit the other person when you're trying to target someone from behind them. And that's the biggest issue I have with Kyoshin, is that his teamfight capabilities, they're very average and subpar. He has good chase, a decent chase with his forward dodge heavy. And other than that, I feel like Blackbriar has the same kind of side heavies, and also Zhenhu has the same kind of side heavies as well. And their tracking is just infinitely better than Kyoshin's. I think he needs a few number tweaks here and there, and hopefully they do adjust those values. Alright, let's just move on to Shigoki. You know, this guy, he has absolutely been a menace, the big man, the big sumo man. I'm just going to slap him right in S tier. I'll give you guys a few points on why he's one of the strongest heroes and probably one of the best heroes in the game right now. First of all, they gave iframes to his dodge bash. He has a forward one and also a side one. So if he decides to target swap, he will dodge the first attack that the opponent threw and also hit you or the other person, whatever it takes. And the most important thing is that his bash does damage. He doesn't need to initiate another light attack to guarantee the damage. His bash already does damage, so that itself feeds less revenge and gives less opportunities for you to get revenge, and so that in itself is very powerful. His zone attack also has hyper armor still, which is I'm a little bit confused about. I don't know why it still has hyper armor. It's the only zone attack that does, and then he can chain from his unblockable mix-up. His heavies have so much range and they do so much damage as well. You can also do a thing where you just target swap like spam it and then it just hides the indicator and you don't know if he's targeting you or whatever. I hope they fix that in the future. And so he's very strong, and don't forget about his neutral hug attack. Very good for gank setups. It's incredibly strong. Whenever you fight it against like a good Shigoki or just 2 Shigokis or more, this is going to be an absolute nightmare for you. So S tier all the way. There's no way that anybody can tell me he's not S tier. So I hope you guys are having fun fighting this hero and using him as well. Alright, so and with our girl Nobushi, I'm definitely gonna put her in A tier now, because once I thought about it, I was like, you know what? She can clutch out a lot of moments, and she can also have pretty insane teamfight capabilities. She's really good for peeling. Her hidden stance into the undodgeable forward heavy is just incredibly good with her rework nowadays, so she can always catch people off guard even when they dodge. It's an incredibly powerful tool right now. She's also a really good staller because hidden stance can just be utilized in so many ways. The only problem is that she's really high skill curve. I think you really have to know the ins and outs of this hero, what she can punish, what she can't punish. Her feats are fairly decent too. You know, everyone's been using Arrow Strike lately, and of course, Smoke Bomb. I don't want to talk about Smoke Bomb. Absolutely atrocious. Nobushi, all around, really good character, but I would say you kind of have to be careful with her. You have to know the ins and outs of her, be really good at team fights and good at peeling. The only issue that I still don't think that makes her quite S tier is that she can't really anti-gank as well, because I feel like the most important thing is you kind of want to always take her kick. Her undodgeable heavy is her main source of damage, and so if you just take the kick and block all of her oncoming light attacks or undodgeable heavies, you won't be in that big of a deal. Of course, when there's a wall, that's when you kind of have to worry. But even then, if she does manage to miss her kick, she's pretty much vulnerable in that aspect because her kick has so high recovery times. I don't know why they haven't increased it, just like the rest of these casts who have better recovery times. So if there's one thing I would change about Nobushi is to fix her kick so that she has less recoveries and doesn't get guard broken from it all the time and doesn't have to throw out a like to predict a guard break. And also one important thing is that she doesn't have a chain finisher unblockable heavy attack, and that is what gets people to react to try to go for the parry so you can knock him down or just throw out a raw heavy attack. She has to get into her kick mix-up or throw out a light first to initiate her chain mix-up, and I feel like that makes her a little bit weaker in the anti-ganking category. Sure, she can target swap and she can external, but I think that's the only weakness with her that sets her apart from the other S tiers that can anti-gank and hold their own a little bit better, in my opinion, and finish off enemies. And we got the Mosquito here, Shinobi. We do know that he's getting a big rework. As you guys know, he was the Centurion 2.0. I'm pretty sure they're going to fix the wall splat issue, but right now, in this state, in this age with Shinobi the Fly, I'm going to slap him down C tier. All he really has is ranged heavies, ranged GBs, which are incredibly annoying in 4v4, especially with good Shinobi. You can't really punish him anyways. It's going to get removed. It's very unhealthy for the game. His rework is way better and way more fun to play as well. Keep that in mind. And so right now, he doesn't really have any good teamfight capabilities besides throwing ranged heavies and kiting all the time. So I'm going to slap him C tier. Not much to say about Shinobi. He's going to get the rework that he deserves, and we don't really know when it's going to come out. It could be a month. It could be 2 months for the reworks. We don't know how Ubisoft operates, alright? And let's just quickly move on to Orochi. I would say Orochi, he's not the worst hero in the game. And keep in mind, he will be getting his rework as well, but I'm going to put him in C tier. He doesn't really offer as much when it comes to team fights. He does have a pretty good top-heavy unblockable that has tons of range. He doesn't have any kick mix-up, unlike his rework. But other than that, he doesn't have much going for him. His Storm Rush is predictable. His Riptide is also predictable as well. So you can't really do much with Orochi. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to slap him in C tier. Oromusha, with his current rework, I think I'm going to put him up in A tier. He's a very hard hero to punish now. His blockades come out instantly right afterwards. So you cannot throw a light attack out to punish him, or a heavy attack or a zone attack, or like a Zhanhu doing his zone attack to external. You're going to get punished severely for that. The good thing is that his damage for his blockade is incredibly low. It's only like 16 or 20 at most. But I'd say Oromusha is still a very strong pick now. He's got a heavy opener now with his Ring the Bell. Very shagadelic. I love it. I don't love it because the animation is terrible. I changed my mind. But overall, you know, Oromusha, he has decent feats now with Smoke Bomb. Please get removed Smoke Bomb. I don't want to talk about Smoke Bomb. But overall, I'd say Oromusha is a very good hero to stall and do some anti-ganks with his unreactable deadly feints and very strong heavy finishers. and just a very good full block that can pretty much negate a ton of offense. You know, Armush he's in a great place right now. I'd slap him A tier, and you can really do well with him if you know the hero. The players who want to compensate for their short sword. All right, Kensei, I'm gonna slap this boy up in S tier. He's still one of the best team fighting heroes, one of the best anti-gankers, and one of the best stalling heroes with his dodge attack. He still has a really good unblockable 50-50 mix-up. But yeah, there's not much to say about Kensei. He's a good peeler. He's a good team fighter. He has long range light attacks and heavy attacks, good hyper armors after the dodge heavy and finisher heavies. Overall, his chilling stare is pretty good. Fast recovery on his first feat's pretty good. And let's not forget about his 4th tier feat, which makes him pretty much an unblockable master. You can pretty much get hit by it all day, and you kind of want to go for the parries as much as you can because Kensei will try to throw out the light attacks. But overall, I just say he excels and being a good team fighter, a good peeler, and overall just one of the most balanced heroes in the game. I'd say he needs a few more buffs here and there with his speed, but I love playing Kensei, one of my favorite heroes to play, and solid pick in 4v4 if you want to pull out some anti-ganks or even assist your teammates for the win. Alright, let's try to finish this up. So moving on to Daikir, with her recent reworks and her buff, she has just become an absolute unit, so I'm going to slap her right up in S tier. Her 50-50s and her heavies, they pretty much have undodgeable properties. I know you don't see the blue and everything, but if you try to dodge it the wrong way, you're going to get hit by it, I guarantee you. She's hyper armor for days, heavy spam for days, kick mix up for days, and also her chain unblockable heavies, or also she has a neutral heavy unblockable as well that charges up, and that's just really good for indicator spam, and it does a ton of damage. So you really want to focus on her and pretty much everything else that's going on. She's a very strong pick. You don't really need to know a lot about this hero to do well with her. She's just a really strong pick when it comes to her 50-50 mix-up. And that pretty much finishes the samurai faction. So overall, it looks like all the characters are going to rise up on the rank, except for Shinobi and Orochi right now, but when they get their reworks, they'll finally rise up to like B or A tier in Dominion and Duel, so that's a really good thing. I'm glad the Samurai got some love. Let's move on to the next one. Man, moving on to Raider, he is getting a rework, but right now in his current state, I'd put him maybe in B tier. He's a great mid-clear hero. He has probably one of the best lights in the game when it comes to just mowing down those lights, because every light he throws kills like 2 or 5 minions, you know what I'm saying? But he's good for team fights, decent with his hyper armor trades and his enhanced zone, which has a lot of range and it dishes out a ton of damage. His stampede charge is also really good for ganking situations, just ledging people. And honestly, there's not much to say about Raider. I'm gonna slap him in B tier. Hopefully he gets his rework soon. Alright, and the people who like to think with their second head, Warlord, I'm gonna slap him right up, and probably I'll put him up in S tier. He's a really good hero to carry. If there's any ledges, my god, by gum, you're gonna get them, and they're going to be insanely tilted for the rest of the game, and you pretty much already won the game. So he's the master ledger. I don't know why he still has crashing charge, also one of the best moves in the game, infinite stun, and it does a lot of stamina damage as well. So this is really good hero overall if you want to carry your team, if you want to do well with good damages and high value trades. A very strong full block as well that negates a lot of offense, except for unblockables, of course. And also, let's not forget about Juggernaut, tough as nails, fire blast, all that good stuff. His headbutt is incredibly good, and it's just overall he has a really strong kit for anti-ganking and stalling. Okay, and we got our two-handed axe boy, Berserker. I'm gonna slap him right up in A tier. He's gonna be a pretty solid hero if you know how to use him, of course. He does have reflex guard, and so if you're not good with assassin heroes, don't pick him because you're going to take a lot of hits, and he revolves around trades. Good OOS pressure, unblockable mix-up, fast light attacks, enhance dodge attacks now too, so he has a lot of things going for him. His top light's faster. Overall, just a really solid pick if you know how to use him well. He is not for a player that does not know what they're doing in 4v4 because he relies on trades and exturling very well and having good reactions, so don't pick him if you don't have those things. But overall, one of the good heroes that are in the Viking faction. Alright, moving on to Valkyrie, the thickest thighs in here. I'm gonna put her up in B tier. You know, she's very underrated. She does have an opener compared to most of the cast, and she does have a really cool full block as well. Her fire flask, probably one of her best feats as well. Javelin is also really good. Bloodlust, incredibly satisfying. Way more damage after killing an opponent. A totally underrated hero. If you know this hero in and out, you can probably clutch out a ton of games with her. She's a very strong pick, and I just wish they would update her moveset and just make it feel like she has more flow compared to the rest of the new reworked heroes. And we also don't want to forget about her crushing counters, which can be used externally or just in a 1v1 duel situation. And she really has good chase. Her forward dodge light has incredible amount of tracking, and you're guaranteed a second line attack. Honestly, she feels like a very strong hero and could be an A tier hero, except that her full block doesn't really help anyone besides herself. If we compare like Hidden Stance or Kyoshin's full block or Aramusha's full block or a Berserker's hyper armor, she doesn't have any of that. And so she has openers, but she doesn't have unblockable heavies. But I mean, she does have Bloodlust and Juggernaut, which gives her a really high edge. Unfortunately, I think I'm just gonna be safe and put her on B tier. She could be an A tier hero, but I'm gonna slap her in B tier just because I think she still needs a little bit of work. But even with her crushing counters, I feel like if you external Valkyrie, she's not posing as much of a threat as the rest of the S tiers or the A tier heroes, in my opinion. Let me know if you guys disagree with me. I feel like she's underrated and she could be very strong, but there's just something missing from her kit. Dunma Glass, Highlander, I'm gonna slap him in B tier. You know, his lights, they're really wonky with his animations and everything. He's pretty good for our hyper armor traits with his Celtic Curse, but overall, everything he does with his mix-ups can pretty much be rolled. His kick to caber is nearly useless against every single hero since everybody has a dodge attack now. Even Hitakiri has a dodge attack, so kick to caber you can't really use unless they're OOS. And a lot of people will go OOS, but they can just external you anyways and just dodge away with when you external and dodge to the side, compared to just like a normal dodge if you were locked onto them. So Highlander, he needs some tweaks on that. Not sure what they're gonna do with him, but it's good with hyper armor trades and very good damages when you do get a light parry. And let's not forget about Spear Storm and Champion's Aura, both Chad feats. The next girl we're talking about is everyone's favorite biter, Shaman. I'm gonna put her up in A tier. She still has a lot of unreactable soft feints, and her bleed just into a bite, hopefully nobody interrupts you, is still incredibly strong for ganking tools. Her feats are also really good too. She still has Fire Flask, and the axe is really intense, and Bear Trap as well. She still has Reflex Guard, so be careful about that, but I'd say if you really go Shaman and Assassin heroes, Shaman is your go-to girl for clutching things out. Alright, so moving on to Jormungandr. This one's going to be a little bit controversial, but I still hold my stance on a lot of Jormungandr's strengths, but I still know his weaknesses as well. So I believe I'm going to put him low B tier because he still has tons of damage and clutch potential. His feats are one of the main strengths of this hero, and also his wall splat mechanics, and also dealing a bunch of stamina damage as well when you get a guard break off an opponent. Sure, you can argue that the stamina drain is not as much as it used to be, but in 4v4 and matchmaking where people are throwing on a bunch of attacks all the time, there is going to be plenty of opportunities for you to land your bash and pretty much take away all their stamina to land you that unblockable heavy or that nut slam attack. And keep in mind, his second feat allows him to gain shields, pretty much half shields, 50 health, for you to pretty much take hits and tank. And so every single time you land one of those nut slam attacks, you're gonna have the potential to pretty much clutch it out once again. And in Revenge, he only has 2 chain attacks, so his unblockable mix-up is still going to be viable no matter what. And I believe that's what makes him a strong character, his clutch potential, his ability to stall. Sure, if you're up against like the most competitive players who know what they're doing, who always roll and dodge backwards on every single mix-up perfectly and can react to red indicators, yeah, he's going to be a bad hero. Is his teamfight capabilities that good? Probably not, but I'd still say he's a good staller who can gain his health back, and on nut slam attacks, you'll be able to get your shields back. And don't forget about his max punishes too. He still has an incredible amount of max punishes with just his normal 38 damage nut slam attack, and also if you go for the OOS parry, you can do that light whiff into unblockable to land that unblockable and also do your nut slam attack. I don't think that has been patched out yet, and so I'm gonna put him low B tier and maybe high C tier. He still has a lot of good qualities about him, and I would look forward to more buffs to his kit and just overall just change his design entirely. So if you agree or disagree with me, let me know down below, but I'm still gonna hold firmly on this stance because I've had a lot of success with Jormungandr, because not everyone is going to be able to dodge his stamina draining bashes 100% of the time, right? And being able to interrupt people with this bash as well, dealing stamina damage, makes it more likely so you could attack because his light attacks are enhanced, so you can get into your unblockable heavy mix-up and just dish out more damage overall. Alright, everyone's favorite loudmouth and ballerina, Tianji here. I really don't know why they don't slap his voice line and lessen it every single time so he doesn't have to yell after every dodge attack or every Wudai Tianji. But I'm gonna slap him on S tier because, you wanna know why? Because he has iframes on his dragon dodges or his tiger dodges, and he can pretty much avoid a lot of mix-ups in general with 50-50s, and especially when you factor in externaling and just blocking and stalling with his feats, his regenerative feats with his health and his shields. It makes him a very, very, very easy hero to use. So that's why I'm going to put him in S tier. He can pretty much handle every matchup decently. The only problem that he has is his damage output. It's very small compared to like a hero like 50-50. Hitakiri has, like her kick mix-up, deals 22 damage, while Palm Strike only deals about 13 or 14, I believe. And so I think that's the only weakness of Tianji. Otherwise, he can pretty much do anything he wants on the battlefield. One of the best heroes to play, and also one of the stylish looking heroes. So go ahead and play him if you guys want to carry your team. And let's not forget about Jangjun Guanyu, or how you say it, Mr. Old Man who slaps everybody. Be sure to slap like now. Jangjun is probably one of the best heroes to use in Dominion right now because of his zone attack. It's just incredibly good when it comes to his Sifu stance and just parry punishing people, because you can hit everyone around you. And you can also link that into an unblockable heavy finisher, which has tons of range. It's probably one of the best heavy finishers in the game right now. Adding to that, his Sifu stance is just incredibly helpful because you can pretty much use that after every single attack, a line attack, a heavy attack, or a dodge heavy. And keep in mind, his dodge heavy does have a lot of iframes as well, so it's going to negate a ton of mix-ups in general, just like Tianji. Now those are their two specialties, and I think that's what makes them really strong and sets them apart from the rest of the cast. Jangjun also has a forward kick opener and really good OS pressure in general. He's just by far one of the most funnest heroes to play and also play against too, and I really don't have any issues with Jangjun. He can be strong, but he's also manageable at the same time. So that's why I'm going to put Jangjun in S tier. He's a really good team fighter, a good peeler, and overall just one of the best heroes to play in the game. And here we have Newxia. Now she's a little bit of a tricky hero to place, but right now I think I'm going to put her in low B tier simply due to the fact that her openers are a little bit wacky and her traps do work sometimes, but if you're like, people will do emotes, people will just dodge attack, people will just switch their guard and render her useless. The only redeeming qualities about her is pretty much her wall splats on chain heavy finishers, her deadly duet, her feats, her call traps pretty much used every single team fight because it regenerates so quickly. And she also has a decent tier 4, which is pretty much War Mommy's hand-me-down of her poison and her poop. Her dodge attacks feel weird. It feels like she doesn't have that much iframes, and it also takes quite a bit of time before they do hit. It feels like Valkyrie's or Nobushi's dodge attacks, where they take a lot of time to actually get into. Otherwise, she does have pretty good 1v1 potential, where her lights are incredibly fast and pretty much unreactable. But I think she belongs in B tier. She doesn't have anything outstanding. She doesn't have a bash. She doesn't have unblockable heavy chain finisher. She does have traps which do kind of act like unblockable heavies, but they're not really unblockable heavies. And other than that, you know, she's just kind of mediocre with a little bit of hidden potential. Hopefully she gets some kind of rework in the future. And we got our little avatar wannabe here, Shaolin. I mean, I do love the style of this hero, but I think I'm gonna slap him in B tier just because he doesn't really have a good opener. Once he externals, or once someone externals him, he's pretty much useless besides his kick, and if you already dodge early, then he's not gonna be able to do anything about it. The only issue is that if you're using an assassin hero against a Shaolin, then maybe you'll get hit by his undodgeable. However, he doesn't really have that much going for him when it comes to team fights. He's decent in team fights. I would say he's better than a lot of the cast down here in C. However, everyone else outshines him in team fight capabilities and peeling potential as well. I'd say his first feat, Key Trap, is pretty good, but other than that, his teleport is also really nice too, but everything else is, I'd say it's mediocre. But right now, I'm going to slap him in B tier if you guys have different opinions about that. I know Shaolin can be used well, but right now I don't really see him as a threat, especially when in 4v4. And some people told me that the reason his deflect is so low, which is only, I believe it's 20 damage, is because he can go into his chi stance right away. But that's not a really good argument because every single hero that has a deflect, they can pretty much chain into another light attack, which, by the way, since the CCU has dropped, makes light attacks a viable form of offense. So just going into chi stance is one form of offense, but I think it's more important to note that pretty much Orochi can go into another light attack afterwards. He can go into unblockable heavy finisher, which is even more of an OS pressure. Let's take a look at Zhanhu, pretty much go into another unblockable finisher, Newxia, light attack, trap, all that good stuff. And so with Shaolin, he only has that 20 damage light attack, and all of these deflects are much higher as well. Keep in mind, more damage outputs, and Shaolin only has one tool to go into his mix-up. His mix-up is good. Like don't. I'm not disparaging that, but I wish they would just increase the damage on the deflect so that you're more inclined to go for it. And I'll tell you what, I cannot land the top deflect for the life of me. The timing for that is so weird. And here we have the beautiful Zhanhu. I'm gonna put him right up in S tier. He's one of the best heroes in the game right now. His zone attack just reaches you for days. He flows like water. I think he flows better than Tianji and Jiangjun together. Honestly, I think he's one of the best heroes in the game and one of the easiest heroes to use as well. He just unblockable chain mix-ups for days, really good punishes, really good OS pressure as well. One of the best team fighters in the game. If you want to dominate, go ahead and pick Zhanhu up in Dominion because he will destroy everybody with his 2-chain unblockable spam. His range for his side heavies are really good and helpful for team fights and just doing a bunch of external pressure. And I mean, there's not much else to say about this hero. His feats are good, his range is good, his team fight potential is good, his fashion is top tier. And he's just a great hero. Go ahead and pick him up. And here we have Warden. He did get quite an extensive rework past couple of patches, and he's pretty much a shoulder bash machine with an added extension of pretty decently ranged external unblockable heavy. So he does have pretty good OS pressure combined with the shoulder bash and his unblockable heavies, and I kind of want to put him in A tier just because of all the utility that he does have. The only thing that I don't like about him is that he doesn't have any good feats. I think his only good feat is morale booster, which enables him to have and boost his teammates' attacks up. But other than that, his first 3 feats are pretty bad, and since they removed the second tier feat that enables him to pretty much ignore bleed, it definitely put him down a tier. I would say that he's probably around like high B tier or maybe even A tier. I don't think I'd really put him in S tier. But frankly, I think I'm just going to put him in A tier just because he has such a strong 50-50, and he also does have pretty decent sized heavy hitboxes now, especially with his unblockable spam. So if he does manage to get revenge, he can force his opponents to make a reaction, and then he can go for a guard break and throw him to the ground. I think the second issue that I have with him is that his zone attack costs so much stamina, so his ability to peel for his teammates with like his own attack is not going to be as good. His lights are also pretty bad. He does have Valiant Breakthrough, which means you can't dodge roll away from him, so that makes him pretty strong in that aspect. So his chase is good. His team fight capabilities are decent. I'd say they're better than a lot of the other heroes down here, and he does have a pretty good 50-50 finish off 1v1 opponent who are low in HP and just force reactions out of it. So I'm gonna put him in A. I would have put him in low B, but we'll stick with A for now. All right, PK. What do I do with this hero? PK, she's, even with the recent rework, they reworked her to be a duelist, which is kind of weird because you don't really duel in 4v4, and so she doesn't have external pressure. That's the biggest issue. What you want to do is pretty much ignore her, and she can't do anything. If she managed to get a GB off you, sure, she does a ton of damage, but I really don't think she has good external pressure. I don't know why they didn't just give her maybe unblockable side heavies or something like that, but then that would make every other character have unblockables, and that's what you kind of need in Dominion to be viable to an extent. Every other hero on top of here has an unblockable or very wide-ranging heavies to deal external damage, chip damage, and she doesn't have any of that unless they're bleeding. Sure, if they're bleeding, then she's a very, very, very strong threat. But other than that, I'm just going to put her somewhere in B tier, low B tier for sure. She's good for peeling because she has that forward dodge heavy, but other than that, her feats are pretty decent. She doesn't have much going for her range, and her health is slow. She has an assassin reflex guard. Pick her if you like cock and ball. Moving on to Lawbringer. Now this hero is a little bit complicated because one, he doesn't have any offense whatsoever. As soon as he gets revenge, you have to let go of all your heavy attacks, and once you get to your unblockable mix-up, they might have rolled already, so I'm not sure how I feel about him. I kind of want to put him in like B tier somewhere. I probably put him like he's a good hero defensively if you can parry everything and you can position yourself correctly, and if you know how to gank correctly where you just impale the other person. But then again, we're talking about matchmaking, and so I feel like he can stall pretty decently. He's an okay team fighter. But his first light attacks just have no range whatsoever. He's kind of underrated. His feats are pretty good. He's pretty much bomb bringer. I want to put him up in A tier, but I feel like he's still a B tier hero, and you're not gonna have that much fun playing this hero against like the rest of these casts, because they do have viable openers and you don't. You have to play passively the entire time, and so I wish he'd get a little bit more of a rework, but unfortunately the rework that he got is pretty much Griffin's rework, so he's getting cucked as well. Moving on to Gladiator, I'm gonna put the Gladiator all the way up in, I'll put him up in A tier. For sure, we'll just put him somewhere up here. He's one of the best heroes when it comes to ganking and just learning how to gank easily with his toe stab and skewer mix up. He also has iframes on his sucker punch now, which makes him incredibly good. His dodge attacks also have iframes. Sucker punch with haymaker is also really good too, and he pretty much deals damage whenever he wants to. Good mix-ups overall. He can chain and flow very well. A good team fighter now. The only thing that he lacks is his the reflex guard, which I hope they remove in the future, at least in For Honor 2 or something, but otherwise his feats are really good, and he's a solid pick if you want to kick some ass. And on to everyone's favorite Roman boy, the Roman Revolution. Centurion. He's always been one of the best heroes when it comes to team fights with his cutscene. I'm probably going to put him up in A tier. If you know how to gank with them, he's just incredibly deadly. I would have put him in S tier, but his anti-ganking is it's a little bit lackluster. Stalling is mediocre as well. He has a decent zone that is wide reaching to the left and right sides, but other than that, he doesn't have much going for him when it comes to peeling, except throwing your forward dodge heavy, which can be pretty risky because it's also really slow. His kick mix-up is pretty good too with his charge punch. Combine those together, he's a great duelist, and he's also a decent team fighter. He has really good feats. Pugyo, wow, that's so fast. Why haven't they slowed that down? Also, his shield, 4th feat. Phalanx is also really nice as well for your teammates. Overall, really good hero that has tons of utility you can utilize, and you can also punch people. Why not? Everyone that has mommy issues calls this hero War Mommy. I'm going to put her up right up in S tier due to her feats and pretty much her 50-50 vortex. Her enhanced lights, you can pretty much keep attacking no matter what. You're gonna have to go for the parry or let some heavies fly or eat that heavy to the face, all that good stuff. She has that forward dodge, undodgeable heavy attack that will attract people who dodge roll away from her, so you can't really dodge away from her. She's very scary to fight against, especially against a good War Mommy. She has the dodge heavy attack, which also is really good for OS pressure, but of course she just has her slap attack anyways. And every parry she gets, if there's a wall, she gets pretty much 30 damage, which is actually insane. She's pretty much like another Lawbringer hero. So S tier for corruption feats, which is very poopy and stinky. But what can you do? You know, I don't kink shame, right? She likes poop, it's fine. And here we have everyone's favorite edgelord, Blackprior. Honestly, I would probably put Blackprior somewhere around up over here. I might even put him right here just because he's one of the most... He can be a very annoying hero to deal against with his low recoveries. Pretty much a safe bulwark stance. If you get that and you make good reads, you'll pretty much flip everybody. The only way to counter Blackprior with his flip is with another Blackprior. So once everyone's powerful, no one will be. Good crushing counters as well, don't forget about that. Undodgeable mix-up, bash mix-up, chain mix-up, unblockable heavies from neutral, which has far-ranging sides that you can external. Overall, really good feats as well. You can heal himself, give shields to other people. I don't even want to talk about this feat. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. That feat, that one feat that takes away all your shields when you get revenge. Oathbreaker. Why is Oathbreaker still in the game? Incredibly unfun feat to use and play against. And with that being said, there's not much else to say about Blackprior. He's a powerhouse. He's a very strong hero overall compared to the rest of the cast. He has a tool for every single situation, and that's why I put him up in S tier. If you can't kill this hero fast enough on a point, you're pretty much wasting your time, and that's what makes him very, very strong. Griffin. Do people still hate him? Probably, but what I'm going to say is that he did get quite a few nerfs with his healing, his speed, his bash did get changed to not neutral bash anymore as a forward bash. His dodge attacks, you can't delay it as much anymore, and so I'm going to probably slap him around A tier. I still think he's a really good hero. His mix-up is still viable to an extent when you make good reads. Still a lot of damage no matter what, and he still has a lot of options when it comes to offensive and defensive capabilities. So his healing feats are great. You're still a paladin, you're still using the Bardish, which is such a cool weapon. It reminds you of Dark Souls. He's also still a good team fighter when it comes to peeling for other teammates. His forward dodge light or forward dodge heavy, and just going into another dodge attack and getting to your mix-up again. You know, like I said, he still has that kick, does 25 damage, sets it up for a lot of other heroes to deal damage as well. His bash, a good OOS pressure tool. The only thing he lacks is an unblockable, but he still makes up for that for long ranged heavies that deal a lot of chip damage. And the last tier we have is the Wall, the one and only Conqueror. Now this guy, to be frank, I would probably put him in S tier, but since he doesn't really have any good chain pressure, I'm just going to put him in A tier simply because he is incredibly hard to punish. He's such a good defensive powerhouse. He can zone, option select with his dodge bashes, because once you dodge bash into the attack, if you have your feats, you can also heal while also performing a bash attack afterwards to deal damage with his shield damage perk. And if you anticipate someone that's going to try and interrupt you with a light attack, you can also just hold full block literally right afterwards and punish the other person for trying to attack you. You can also double bash and deal way more damage than you should have with a normal bash into a light. So he just has tons of versatility when it comes to being incredibly defensive. He can heal, he can external option select and everything just to avoid a bunch of damage. He's also still really good in mid lane and just controlling that area. He can hold his ground. He's got last stand. I'd say his feats are okay. It's pretty selfish feats. His 4th tier feats aren't really that good. I'd say his only good feats are his 2nd tier and his 3rd tier feats, which revolves around him just surviving a little bit longer so his teammates can help you. If he does get revenge, there's not much you can do besides shield bashing, and if they decide to roll away, you pretty much are just stuck there with that small bit of revenge left that you have with that shield. And other than that, you're just going to pretty much be defending the entire time. You're going to want a full block, keep your distance, back away, external dodge all the time, and just stall for hours because he does have the superior block. And that really just makes him incredibly strong. Light spam does not really work with this character as much as you'd think. He can also gank well with his bashes if you wanted to. They are variable timed. He does have a dodge bash, and he does have a heavy unblockable once you charge it. Unfortunately, you can't really feint that. You can just feint it into a full block, so it's not necessarily the scariest thing, but it is something you have to watch out for when you're fighting against Conqueror. Overall, I'm going to put him up here simply due to the fact that he can just stall for days, and he's just a very hard hero to punish, especially when played defensively. Unless you're very coordinated, then you're probably not going to kill this guy fast at all. Alright, and there you have it, boys. That is the tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did agree with me or disagree with me, let me know down below. And of course, everyone's experiences and opinions can be changed when presented with new information, so share your experiences down below. Slap like if you really enjoyed it or want to see more of this in the future. Of course, we're not going to get a new hero for a while, but still, things are subject to change. We're going to get the reworks with Orochi and Raider as well, so we're looking forward to that. Don't forget about Shinobi. And that's pretty much going to be it. And also don't forget to check out the Resident Evil 8 Village video that I made on Soul Daddy, my 2nd channel. Greatly appreciate that. I love you guys, and thank you to those people that did. Go over there and subscribe. Let me know what else you guys want to see in the future, and hope you guys are enjoying the content so far. I'll see you guys in the next therapy session.